Oh, thank you so much for joining First Peoples Fund for this awesome and joyous 25th anniversary celebration. We, the peoples before. Also, feel free to engage with us if you want to hoop, if you want to holler, if you want to raise a little bit of a ruckus. Yeah. We totally invite that energy. So this space is all of ours right now. So at First Peoples, our mission is to honor and support the collective spirit of First Peoples artists and culture bearers. Our work recognizes the power of art and culture to bring about positive change in Native communities, beginning with individual artists and families. My name is Crystal Wabnum, and I'm the program manager of community development. I manage the Native Arts Ecology Building Grantmaking Program, which seeks to expand the opportunities available to support Indigenous artists all over the country. So, you're here. Welcome to the Writers and Spoken Word panel. That's what's up. That's where you're at.
We have arrived.
And I have the immense pleasure and honor and privilege to introduce our panelists today. So I will introduce them in a superficial way, and then we'll kick the can to them to introduce themselves in their own way that they feel most comfortable with. So we have Autumn White Eyes, James Pakootas, and the one, the only, Patesanween, Little White Man. And then would you all like to receive the can and introduce yourselves?
Yes, I will receive the can. Hami taku yepi, tayawa chiankapi, chante washte na pe chizapi iksto, Adam White Eyes machiapi na la komi chaje ki, wambli ohitikawi machiapi, wazi ahaha emataha, na Oglala Lakota, na Ojibwe hemacha. Hello, relatives. It's good to see you all. I greet you with a heartfelt handshake. My name is Autumn White Eyes. My Lakota name is Brave Eagle Woman, or Wambli Ohitikawi. I'm from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. I live in the Thunder Valley community at the moment. I'm originally from Pine Ridge, though, and I am Oglala Lakota on my father's side, and I'm Ojibwe from the Turtle Mountains on my mother's side. And I'm also the Associate Director of Youth Development at First Peoples Fund, where we manage and do poetry and spoken word and art workshops with young people on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and have partnerships with the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation, Sisseton, the Sisseton Reservation, and in Minneapolis. Some of the young people from the Minneapolis folks that we partner with were in the show last night, as well as Patesanwi and myself, who are alumni of the program as well. And to kick us off in a spoken word and poetry panel, we actually want to share some poems of our own. So I'm going to share my own poem before I pass the mic to James over here. So this poem I'm going to read, and I think I'll stand for it because that feels right. It's called Indigene, and it's a love poem for the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation where I'm from. Every day I'm away from you, I think of what I'd like to say the next time someone asks me where I'm from. What words I would replace impoverished, oppressed, and forgotten with. You are media mistaken. There are rose-colored Lakotas tucked away in the prairies of South Dakota. We are sitting on the other side of your poverty porn. Dissect us with your lens, zoom in, and you will see we are only human once we're warriors, idle, and forgotten 7 generations from Wounded Knee, and we would like to reclaim Indigene. You see, you and I are not far from an agreement. We are sitting on the other side of poverty porn. Dissect us with your lens and fall asleep to every thunderstorm. Feel your house shake and remember the smell of sweet grass. Ask the wakias not to take us tonight. There are red willow trees we would pick before the thunder shook us. Scraping off the bark for the chanupa, our sacred pipe, it's the kind of smell you'll never forget, forgetting that man, the one lying in the street, and his blood was splattered like his rose-colored skin, or the sick swagger of every man sizing up to his brothers, wishing the Lakota warriors wouldn't confuse themselves with gangsters. But everyone wants to be a part of something. When we've been left behind, but Glocks are just a synonym for protection, just like the streets. The streets are just a synonym for being afraid of who we become. Lakota by teaching, Oglala by fight, and this is our sanctuary. Kamad fed, casino led, power red. The only thing we can agree on is that our heroes are the ones who killed cowboys like Custer, prayed on mountains and Chesapa, and died at Wounded Knee. But we are just the offspring of broken boarding school, red bandanas, reservation raised, reclaimed, rose-colored Lakotas, black, red, yellow, white. Media mistaken, white man's Western headdress hipsters, Washington Redskins. You are media mistaken, and this is our story. Indigene. Not defined by the res, but we redefine our res. This is our voice, replacing our bows and arrows with paintbrushes. For pens and paper and paintbrushes, we count coup by the stories that we tell, and this is a whole new Indian war. You see, we are holding on to our heritage in new ways. We shake the streets with our res bombs, half cars barely running and bumping the oldest hip hop because Tupac is the only one who knows our struggle. I left my heart at Big Bats, Yo Courts, and Billy Mills Hall, left my heroes on Crazy Horse Monument, and my heritage in the Black Hills to always come back to you. And my home will always be here. Pine Ridge, Pine Ridge, Pine Ridge. We still sing our songs, speak our language, and tell our stories in a new way, until the sun shines down from the universe, reminding us we are merely human. But you and me, we are still balancing our indigeneity, our indigene. Thank you. Passing the can to James now.
I'll take the can. Kick it around a little bit. Tichas kanchkich. Kwalam nam tiatuko chiap. It's the Kanchut James Pakootas. The language I just spoke is called Inchamchin. It comes from the people I come from, which is Moses, Columbia, Squach, Chinook. There's only 3 fluent speakers left in our language. Got 3 dialects of Interior Salish that my tribes come from. They put 12 tribes on the same reservation in the Colville Confederated tribes in Washington State. I'm a storyteller. I grew wanting to be a motivational speaker and then wanting to be a performer and an artist. When COVID hit, I wanted to be a filmmaker and producer and have done all these things. But now, today, I sit and realize that I carry on the tradition of oral tradition in different ways, telling stories in different mediums, using the technology that we have today to tell more powerful stories. My story comes from overcoming trauma and having resilience. The story I tell in my life, in my everyday living, is a healing journey. 2015, I was in a drunk driving accident where I lost the use of my right arm for the rest of my life. The nerve roots were pulled from my spine. 3 of the 5 nerves in my right shoulder were severed, never to be reconnected again. Both of my forearm bones were shattered. And they had to cut skin from my leg to put back on my arm to see the scar that you see today. So today, I will share a poem about Mother Earth and how she heals and how scars themselves can also be healed. With each sunset, we pray for the dawning of a new day. With each generation, it's the dawning of a new age, one of appreciation in watching her beauty unfold. So be still. Be still. Be still and bear witness as your scars become canyons, deepening only in beauty as light permeates the surface within, turning pain into a prism and seeing through a whole new spectrum in all its color and splendor. For you have arrived, still standing, peering into the crevice within. But what do you see? And what do you see when you peer into canyons? Are they not the same? Do they not deserve the same awe and wonder as you? Both are miraculous because both are a testament of time, taking millions of years of everything going right to stand here, to be here in this moment, together. Together, standing witness to the sunrise on your soul, a perfect star climbing, rising, reaching high into the sky with each ray shining down on what once remained hidden. A new day has come, and this is only the beginning. A beginning that has no end, but only transformation. For this is your awakening. Thank you. Thank you. Jay Sanwing, are you ready to kick a can around?
Oh, I thought it was like soda can.
Okay, you can drink it. You can drink it.
I'm hungry.
Hungry.
So I have like little snacks in my backpack. They're all in my pants and everything.
Just eat while we're doing poetry. It's all good.
No. Ambate washte Dasai machiapi pejutachaka matahana awati. Good afternoon. My name is Dasai Little Whiteman. I'm from the Medicine Root District on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. My Lakota name is Tkanape Washtewi, which means her good hands woman. It could also be translated to she works well with her hands. I've been in the program Dancers with Words for like 8 years now. 8 years. That's where I started my poetry journey, was through First Peoples Fund's Dancers with Words program. I've been writing since I was 12. Represent. Wopila. So yeah, I'll be reading a poem called Happy Birthday. I wrote it on my birthday. Just some insight. It's a little bit, I don't know, heavy. I don't know if you can all see it, but I do have self-harm scars. I am recovering from self-harm, and I am 7 months clean, so that's... Thank you. It means a lot. So this is the poem I'll be reading. I tend to wait till 1:16 a.m. to say I'm a year older. The very time I was birthed into this world, the very moment my lungs gripped onto oxygen. and my wails filled a room full of strangers. I was told before I was born a medicine man seen me and said how healthy I'd be. I often wish I could recall the memory when we met, before I knew what this world had to offer. Before I knew anything other than the womb, I held on to that warm darkness. As each year passed, the more I gained insight of what this world is, and curiosity of who I'll mold into each year, from traumas and personal growth, an endless game of ping pong. With every birthday song sung, the following laughter from nicknames gifted by each friend and family, I ponder the question, what am I wishing for? Blowing out candles on a cake, wishing upon each burning stick, and living in a moment where all eyes fall upon you. I've lived a large portion of my life wishing I had stayed within that warm darkness, because it slowly became cold. The shadows breathe on my skin, leave frostbitten scars, claw marks left on my tongue, and when did I become so ruthless? Inhale, exhale, flames flicker in the abyss, negative space becomes transparent, and the clapping from hands that once held my fragile body fade in the distance. Most people wait for midnight to wish a happy birthday. But what if the birthday isn't happy, and I'm left confused why I'm so cold? I was given life, yet so many times I've tried to take it. My own hands have held razor blades to my wrists, carefully tied a noose, and the crevices of my palms danced alongside loose pills. My brain programmed itself to view this day as ordinary, purposely forgetting this was the very moment my life began. There's this desperation in being told, I'm glad you were given life, but disregarding every word because surely, are you truly glad? I spent my adolescence planning my deadline, meticulously drawing out each step, start to finish, the in-betweens, and what if I'm brought back? I was. Strategic enough to make it inevitable. Yet my spirit is greater than my own mind. Now I seek refuge in the cold darkness, befriending each misunderstood ghost from my childhood, comforting the raging pain from my teen years. The constant thumping ping-pong balls echo in the Dern caves, cries from unhealed traumas and laughter from healed ones. I was born and reborn. Countless times each year passed, only growing wiser, never stagnating, only rebuilding, never deconstructing. When you walk your days questioning whether or not you deserve the life you live, you waste away precious moments and time that never goes backwards, only forward. It truly is a strange feeling to dedicate one day to celebrate your life. So may this be a reminder that your life is cherished by your spirit and your body, doing everything they can so we can see another sunset, sleepily gaze into a sunrise, conversate with the stars, and ask the trees to tell stories of the rivers and stones. Celebrate your life every day, because every day of your life deserves to be treated with the most absolute care. And we are human. Feelings become messy and our minds turn fog-infested. Take a deep breath. It's a day, a night, and you will persevere. Happy birthday. Wabnum, I'll pass it to Crystal.
Y'all are some powerful storytellers. I'm like, thank goodness for the mask, because I'm concealed in how moved I am by it. A little bit of tears happening over here. That was incredible. And if you haven't already sensed it, our ancestors' presence in the room, I invite you to invite your ancestors into the room. Maybe acknowledge them, invite them to be with us as we sit here taking over the Kennedy Center and telling our stories. Would you like to move on to the panel discussion? Sweet. So there may be questions that arise from the panel discussion, and we are kindly going to ask that you hold on to those questions until the very end. All right, so the first question is, and this is to the whole panel. I'm gonna scooch a little bit. So when did you start writing poetry, and What was it like writing your first poem? What was your journey like? What was your journey like toward writing?
I can start us off if that's okay. So I first started writing poetry when I was very, very young, in middle school probably sometime. And to be honest, I cannot remember the first poem I ever wrote, but it was probably something like where I was rhyming, like couplets or something, because I had a very a view of poetry was that like it had to rhyme and it had to be like, this certain type of way that I had only seen in the classroom. And then when I got into high school, I had the, I was very lucky to to take a creative writing class in high school at Red Cloud Indian School, which is a former boarding school that I went to on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And through that class, I started to realize you could write in a lot of different forms. You can have a free form. Your poems don't have to rhyme, like a lot of different things. But really it was when First Peoples Fund came to our school and they hosted a poetry slam, open mic sort of thing, because they wanted to take some young people to Brave New Voices, which is a huge international poetry slam competition, youth poetry slam competition in different areas around the U.S., and I think the largest at that time. And so I was selected as one of the young people who got to go along with Tiana Spotted Thunder, who was in the show last night, if you had the opportunity to see her sing on stage with Kenny Ramos. The two of us were 18, well, I was 18 years old and she was 17 years old, and we went to Los Angeles, and it was the first time I saw Poetry Slam, like, in person, and I saw all these young people around my age taking the stage, taking the space, like, cheering for one another, like, speak poet, don't be nice, like, and they were talking about issues that, like, issues that impacted me as a young person at that time, and that were impacting us in our identities as marginalized young people from different communities of color. And it really inspired me. And so then I started writing poetry more seriously when I got into college. I was a part of a group of college poets called Soul Scribes, and then continued to stay involved with First Peoples Fund over the years to either perform my poetry with the young people or to do workshops with them. And so that's kind of led me to my career now, which is managing this work and doing it with the young people now. Is that the whole question? How'd you get started?
And then some, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That was
I'll
great.
stop now.
No. That was perfect.
You want to go? You sure? Okay. Thank you. Going online. All right. I think I wrote my first poem in like 6th or 7th grade. Same, like I had the very same vision. It had to rhyme. There were couplets, and I don't remember what I wrote about. I was troubled as a child. I had a lot of trauma that I was going through, and through abuse, childhood abandonment. My father was in prison. I didn't really understand these things, and needed some sort of outlet. So I would write, and the one thing that always spoke to me, and I don't know why, was language, and still does today. I can learn language quickly. It's something that my brain really gravitates towards. So I excelled in English classes, advanced placement, and all this kind of stuff, but never really got into poetry. And my older cousin was recording music, and his song got in the Miramax film Skins. There's this scene in there where these two high school kids start duking it out in this gas station, and my cousin's song comes on in that scene, you know, and like from the population where we're from, Nespelum, Cooley Dam, Elmer City, these little like maybe population of like 6 different towns together within a 20-mile radius of maybe 5,000. It's a very small rural community that I grew up from on the Colville Reservation. And to see and hear someone I know, someone that I talk to and having access to and being my family on the big screen was life-changing for me. And I asked him, like, if we could start doing music. I said, I want to rap. I want to, you know, I want to do hip hop. Like, it's the coolest thing, you know. You're in the 90s, like Tupac, right there, like you said in your poem, was just speaking life into all of us in those teenage years. And I wanted to do that. And we formed a group and made 2 albums, and it was just crazy. You know, I was brought up Catholic on my mom's side. And so we would be like rapping about like Jesus and murder and drugs and like all on the same album, you know. It's just like, I listen back now and I'm just like, whoa, where is this? It was wild. But, and so it gravitated to music. So I've been doing music since then. This is like 2002, we recorded those 2 albums, and I've been doing it ever since. But got into some really like adult trauma, to where, you know, criminal activity took me into prison, and the content I was writing about was emulating a lifestyle that was burning down my community. I was a cancer to my own community, selling drugs to my own people, emulating street lifestyle in my music that our youth were beginning to gravitate towards. And that's a hard pill to swallow, to know that I led a couple of people down a path where, you know, they're full-time, full-blown alcoholics and drug addicts now, and maybe I had a part in that. So going to prison, I put it all away. I said, I'm only gonna write, my music emulates this lifestyle, I don't wanna live that way anymore. So I'm putting it away, and was gonna be an HVAC guy and just do this 9 to 5, but was just still tearing down my soul. I was meant for something different. My purpose in life is something different. And I was asked by the new band that I joined 13 months ago called Dadat, out of Farmington, New Mexico. And there was a project that we were working on with my partner, Maura here, professional choreographer and dancer. We would write in response to a landscape photographer would put his photography on canvas, and these are like giant 4 feet tall by 8 feet wide pieces, and there were 8 of them they created, and his wife would paint around them. So there was this like real physical part of the art, and then this metaphysical part that she would bring in. And my band would score the music, my partner would dance, and I would write poetry. And we gathered around each piece and each put our input, like from the photographer. How do you see this landscape? Like, I'm a poet. Give me words. I'm trying to create a word bank. I'm trying to create cleft notes to write from, because this project was from a collective message of healing. So that piece that I wrote was from that, called The Spine of Awakening. And it was from this canyon that's in Bloomfield, New Mexico. And this beautiful sunrise, you know? So being able to relate that to my own traumas and talk about this healing process, but from a collective mindset. And that was the first time I actually have been attempting spoken word poetry rather than like to a beat or to a rhythm. The band scored my poetry after I wrote it. It was a completely like a process that was turned on its face. And then from a hip hop standpoint, it's me statements. This is my vision of the world. This is my lens. Let me speak it out into the universe. And this was more of a us, we, our message. I'm letting other people into my process. They're allowing me into their process, this reciprocity that is also in need of our relationship with Mother Earth. There's reciprocity. We have a responsibility, and we have to allow Mother Earth into us and trust. And we also have to give that same energy back. So that whole project is called the Spirit Coalescent. And it just kicked off last August. This is only my 3rd stage production. that I've ever done in my life. The first was in residency with my partner in August, and then we finally got to do a performance in January of this year. And now we're kind of Thank you. So that's my life of poetry. It's brand new, it's beautiful, and I'm learning. I'm a baby in this process, and I can't wait to see how my style evolves through just spoken word poetry. It's very liberating for me to create from that space, and I really love theater work. It's just brand new, and I am like in love with the process. So hope to see more theaters.
Awesome. Thanks, James.
Hi. What was the question again?
Totally legit, totally valid. When did you first start writing poetry? What was it like writing your first poem, if you can remember? And what was your journey towards writing?
Okay, so I recently, before coming here, I did find a book that I wrote. Well, not a book, like a little, like, you know, those little workbooks that you get when you're in like elementary school and your teacher's like, you gotta do this lesson, page whatever. I was looking through it and I found a poetry lesson that I had written in, and those lessons were the only ones that I entirely did out of the whole book. Like all the other lessons were like untouched. And that was like in 5th grade, and the poems were like rhymey. I think like one of the lines were like, the bat has a hat, death has a cat. And I was like, spit, poet.
Fire.
Yeah. So, yeah, I also agree. Whenever I start writing, I thought that, you know, you had to write rhymey poems. It had to be rhythmic. It had to have, like, it had to be rhymey. Like, it had to be rhymey. And I think once I got out of that mindset, I really kicked off when I was 12 years old. Because when I was in 5th grade, that was the only time I ever wrote. I don't remember ever writing until I was like 12 in 8th grade. And then I went to freshman year, and I started to participate more in poetry and speeches contests, things like that. I was actually part of the Dances with Words naming circle. So we all sat together to figure out what the name of this poetry group was going to be called. And one of my friends was like, Dances with Words. And we were like, yes, that's it. So it was really nice to be able to be a part of it. And I was so honored, and I still am very honored to be a part of Dances with Words, because that program helped me be where I'm at today. It helped me write, and it helped me continue to write, and it helped me to express myself for who I am. I do notice that there is a difference in how I wrote back then to how I write now. I wrote a lot of mental health awareness pieces because I did struggle a lot. I was actually 12 when I did start self-harming. I was peer pressured. The group of friends that I had thought it was cool and peer pressured me, and it became an addiction. So I wrote a lot about my struggles through it. I wrote a lot about the things that were going on in my life that led up to why I started to self-harm, and the things that I went through high school, and just all of like the darkness. That part of my life was very dark. So a lot of my writing was very dark. But when I reread them and I look back at that and I see where I was versus where I am now, I just want to give myself a hug, because part of my raging teen is also angry. Like, why the hell did I let that happen to me? But my soft adult self is like, it happened, and there's nothing we can do about it other than heal and be who we are now. But I think after I graduated high school, I started to become more focused on the environment and racial justice and environmental justice, because that's what I mainly write about now. I still do write about like my mental health struggles, the things I go through in life. Like my happy birthday poem I wrote was this year, because I still, through my years of that darkness, was also figuring out like, why am I celebrating my birthday if this is how I've been treated? I don't feel like I've been wanted into this life. So I wrote a lot of mental health awareness pieces, and now I'm writing more environmental justice pieces. But because I have mental health illnesses and trauma, writing environmental and racial justice, it's really powerful, but it's also really draining because you expose yourself willingly to read what is happening in today's society, in today's state of the world, and you get impacted hard. You feel it in your nari, your soul, and you want to cry, and you feel like there's nothing is going to change. It feels like there's nothing's going to change, and you feel discouraged, and you feel like, unaliving yourself might be better, but that's the whole process of environmental justice and racial justice pieces. It's going through that feeling and making those feelings, empowering your pieces more, making those feelings more than just darkness. But yeah, the poem I read at the performance yesterday was 2 pieces that I wrote, just mashed together. But yeah. Pass it back to Crystal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patesa.
Powerful.
So beautiful.
I feel like I'm sharing the stage with greatness right now. So thank you so much for being here with me and y'all too. I think Patesanween, the way that you responded so thoughtfully to the last question kind of leads me to the next question, which is, how do you see spoken word connected to indigenous oral traditions, if at all? And that, in whatever order you all want to share in.
I'll go first. So for me, I'm raised by my grandparents. From the very time I was birthed to now, I live with my grandparents. So I love them all dearly, and they have told me many stories. My great-grandma is also still alive, so I get to hear her stories of her life and everything. And I get to share my pieces with them, and I've read pieces, and they've been at my performances as well. And I feel like spoken word poetry has allowed me to be able to continue to be a storyteller in modern times. Because when I hear my relatives, my elder relatives, tell me these stories about their life, it's almost like poetry, but in their time. Like just things that they've said to me about what they've gone through, what they've witnessed, what they've experienced in their lives. I can envision it in a poem, but in a more oral way. And poetry, I feel like, is uplifting for communities. It's what brings us all together as indigenous peoples. We're all born storytellers, no matter what medium we are. Like, you can draw, you can graffiti art, you can hip hop rap. These are all stories in their own form. And poetry, you can incorporate it into anything. I know that a lot of people think poetry is like, rhyming. It has to have stanzas. It has to have a certain way of being presented. When they forget that, poetry can be incorporated into photography. Poetry can be incorporated into your everyday life. It doesn't have to be super beautiful. It doesn't have to be, descriptive, like the sun felt like a warm hug. It could just be like something you hear in your everyday life. It could just be a conversation that you have with someone. Someone could be like, yeah, that poem, or yeah, I heard a song and it made me feel like I was like dancing on like grass, like soft grass without feet, or like without shoes on and anything. That itself can be a poem. It passes our heads, I feel like. As indigenous peoples, I feel like we are natural born storytellers, and everything that we write, everything we say, everything we put out into the world is a poem in itself. It's just in a different form because, society has made us believe everything has to be a certain way. It has to be this. If it's not, it's not that. It's not true. It does not have to be like that. And I feel like that's a form of decolonizing your mind, is making sure that you don't live up to the way society expects things, Like, on my reservation, my district, both of our gas stations don't have parking spaces, parking lots. We all just park wherever and make sure we get out. And I feel like that is my favorite form of a physical decolonization. Because when I leave this reservation, I go to all these other cities, I see parking lots and everything is precise, prestigious. And I'm just like, I'm not used to this. But yeah, I've never been to Washington, so it's like very new to me to like look in one direction and see a bunch of buildings and not look in one direction and see a landscape of stars, or like see in the distance pine trees or the badlands, or like a wild coyote. Like, you know, it's just interesting. But yeah, whoever wants to go next.
I could go next because I really loved everything you said and really agree with it as well. For me, I also was really lucky to grow up with some of my great-grandmothers, and they were fluent Lakota speakers, and I remember just sitting around with them when I was really little and listening to them tell stories, and that was poetry to me. You know, that was hearing spoken word. That was my first exposure of it, is just hearing my grandmothers tell us stories when we were really young. They told us about when they were in the boarding schools. They told us about things that happened to them. And this, the thing about being Lakota is that we are very much warriors. Like, we are very proud of who we are. Maybe that's Oglala specifically, but like, we're very proud of being like warriors and activists, and we have a long history of activism in our community from the first Wounded Knee in the Ghost Dance to the second Wounded Knee in the American Indian Movement occupation. And if you don't know about that history, I encourage you to learn about it. And so growing up with elders and people in my community who talk about this activism, who have this powerful resistance to colonialism and capitalism and all of these structures that have this control over our community, has been really powerful for me in my own spoken word journey. And so, and I see that as an oral tradition too. It's the continuation of our history and how we pass down to the next generation, how we go forward. And so that's been really the inspiration for me in my poetry is I've been inspired by my community. I've been inspired by our activist movements, and that's what gave me a voice to speak on activist movements that were important to me. And that there are so many storytellers in our community that, like, I think in wider society, we think of art in a really specific way, whereas in our community, in our culture, art is so ingrained into who we are. From the way we create our clothing, our dances, the way we tell stories, all of it is art. Artists are who we are at the very basis, like at the very center of who we are. And so I think that oral tradition is just continuing through us in this new modern way, and we're taking up new forms that we're learning from our relatives. And yeah, I'm just gonna say that much.
Thank you, Autumn. Thank you.
Spoken word being connected to oral tradition is just another statement and testament of us being a living peoples, of our culture being alive in every facet of our being. Our languages are alive. Our stories are alive. They're a true telling of our experiences and the way in which we live our lives in the period in which we live them. I started beginning to learn our language in Khamchin only 3 years ago. So like what I've introduced myself at is like some of these beginnings of my learning, like the beginnings of my process of reconnecting with the identity of my peoples. We have this book called the Book of Legends from our tribe, and it's stories that were written down from many of our old chiefs and many of our old ancestors that tell us of our creation stories. And many of our creation stories are rooted in the land that we come from. 3/4 of our reservation, the Columbia River surrounds it. So there are stories that are specific to these land markings. And me connecting with identity again would hike to a couple of these spots over just this last year and seeing the land come alive from stories that have been told for hundreds of years, markings that I can still see today on cliff faces and how they got there, informs me of the spirit of my writing. I am a continuation of that storyteller, only telling these stories in a whole new way, in a whole new time. And 100 years from now, if any of our stuff is saved in recordings and things like that, I hope that our natives will look back and be proud of us being storytellers and be inspired to tell theirs. Because I take power from the identity that I feel from the oral stories of our creation stories, and it helps me speak my truth out into the universe. And that's how it continues through my art.
Awesome. Thank you, James. So we are in this colonial society, and I am going to do a time check because it's 11:25, and we have a couple of different things that we could do. So I'll kind of kick the can to our panelists to see if they'd like to engage in an activity or like a writing activity with the audience, participants, or do a question and answering. Some guidance.
What do y'all want to do?
Yeah, what do you want to do?
Do you want to ask questions, or
write?
do you want to create yourselves, or both?
Create. All right.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Alrighty, so as a part of our panel, one of the things we wanted to do is give you all an opportunity to create as well. And so all of us have talked about the land and how it has inspired our writing. And we were in the section of the earth last night, which is, these are the stories the land remembers. And that's actually going to be our writing prompt for you all. And we have...
Kennedy Center, check 1, check 2. We're looking for the big blast on screen. Folks sitting up in the box, doing the AV. Can you do your thing now? You can run on Indian time, it's okay.
Yeah. Now I feel at home.
In the meanwhile.
Yes, in the meanwhile, if you have notebooks or a telephone or something to write on, the prompt is, these are the stories the land remembers. So thinking about the lands that you're from, the places you call home, the places you're connected to, whether it's here in Washington, D.C., if your homelands are further away, or wherever you're feeling called to in this moment. What are the stories the land remembers? Who are the people of that land? What are the memories you have with that land? What brings you joy? What keeps you grounded? What do you hear? What do you smell? What can you taste, touch, see? Would anyone like to share what they wrote?
This is not
Give
the
him some
assumption.
time.
Ben's got his hand up.
Like 30 seconds pass and you...
30 seconds? Whoa, is that all I get? I didn't write anything. It's just a thought. Sitting in the dirt, spitting choke cherry pits down below me, looking up and seeing my grandmother in camp, yelling at kids running by. I'm a kid here. This is my land. This is where I'm from. This is what I feel. This is what I know. This is what we remember. This is who we are.
Oh my God, sick.
Okay.
Poet.
Speak,
right there.
poet.
That's a poet.
Ben didn't even need the time. All right. Thank you, Ben. That was amazing. Also, what's amazing, I'm going to do a plug for Ben's painting, which we have on auction. There's a QR code underneath, and if you have the dough, you can bid on it. Would anyone else like to share? We got one. Okay. Here we go.
What does this land remember? Yeah. I put when we were free, when we didn't wear tops, when we loved our bodies, when we didn't apologize for being fierce.
Love that.
Beautiful.
Love that. Would anyone else like to share? We have maybe 1 or 2 minutes left. We have one. Oh, from my Adawa relative. We just connected last night over pickles.
She attracts
Hey!
Yes, pickles.
We did once.
Crystal, a track star. She a runner.
These are the stories that land remembers. She speaks to me in screaming whispers, and her sacred lifeblood washes over my feet.
Thank you for sharing that.
Wisdom.
Oh, we have another. We have one more. I got this.
I think there's somebody in the middle over here. Can you raise your hand? Okay. Yeah, right there.
I run. It's okay.
Go, Crystal.
Warm faces that brings me water to fill my cup. People who love me, whose spirit will always be there.
I love
Spirit will
What a
always
gift.
be there.
Thank
So
you for
many
sharing.
poets in
Thank
the
you for
room.
sharing so freely. Anyone else? Oh, we got two. We got two.
Something quick. Washington, D.C. is my homeland. 742 Cutten Street is where I was raised. My 3 sisters, my brother and I used to sing 742 Cutten Street, 742 Cutten Street. The part that I didn't write. My 3 sisters and I have grown from 742 Cutten Street. My brother never made it from that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing
you
your
for that.
spirit with us. One last one, but not least.
This one is from Puerto Rico, and I wrote Tumbao from trash bins, jagged nods, sing a song because we're supposed to, that's how we remember.
I love that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Autumn. I'm going to kick the can to you to help wrap us up.
I'm wrapping us up.
Wrap it up, B.
I just want to say, Pilamayaya, thank you so much for coming out and to see this beautiful panel of work. I just wanted us to end maybe with a plug, if you want to plug whatever you're working on or where to follow you or anything like that. I have a book of poetry out right now called Instructed by Hawi. You could find it on my Instagram at Autumn White Eyes. You can follow me there, on there, or Facebook, or on my website, autumnwhiteeyes.com. So grateful to share this space with you all. Go ahead, James.
Shameless plug,
Thank
James.
Thank you. You can follow me. I just joined a new band. That's my biggest endeavor at this point. We've got many bodies of work that we're beginning to tour and work on. So you can follow us at DDATLIVE at Dadat Live. That's Facebook, Instagram, dadatlive.com. It's all really easy, so it's the same type of tagline. And then my personal, for outside of the band, I still do a lot of workshops, creative writing workshops, motivational speaking, production work, film work. I just love telling stories, and that's at iam.justjames with a Z. I am just James. I am just James. Just James.
Nice. So you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I make kind of like life documentaries. I post my poetry on there. I also post like kind of like coping things. So if I'm going through something, I'll post something to kind of cope with. But yeah, my Instagram and TikTok are Minty T-Love, MINTY, right? MINTYTEALOVE. So I have my Instagram's kind of, it's private, but I'll accept it because yes,
Our pickle girl up there.
yeah. My Instagram is mainly like kind of like my little electronic journal. So I'll post things like how I'm going about my day, how things have been. And my TikTok is more of just like poetry, my life stories, documentary, things like that, video log and stuff. But yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. I will plug George Martin, who's an amazing beater, Ojibwe from Lakota Ray, Wisconsin, by quote unquote donation only. Wink, wink, you know what I mean. So I gave him a donation of $55 for this dope back scratcher.
It
Just
extends.
saying, support our elders. Donate.
Extend it. Show them.
Oh,
Look at that. Watch this.
what?
Holy, that's awesome.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wokila.